All right. Okay, welcome today. I hope you're fine. So today we're looking at an interesting topic, and this class is for JSS3. We're looking at sentences today, and today we're talking about the definition, the types. We're going to talk about clause and the structure of sentences. So if you're ready, you can join me as we ride on. Now let's look at the definition of a sentence. What is a sentence? So many of us have so many definitions of sentences. But a sentence is a group of words that contains a verb, a subject, and a verb, and expresses a complete sense or thought. So a complete sentence must contain a subject and a verb, and that sentence must pass a complete sense or thought or idea. So that's the general definition of a sentence. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, sentences can be classified into two groups. Now, the two wings sentences is classified into. First one is based on its uses. The second classification is based on its structure. So we divide sentences into two groups based on how it is used and based on how it is formed, which is the what? The structure. Now let's look at type of sentences based on its uses. Now there are four major sentences that is based on its uses. We have four types based on the way it is used. First, we have the declarative sentence, we have the interrogative sentence, we have the imperative sentence, we have the exclamatory sentence. So these are sentences that is based on the way they are used. So they're declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. Alright. Now let's look at the declarative sentence. What is a declarative sentence? It is a sentence that is used to make a statement or provide a fact, or it is used to express an opinion, and they always end with a period, which is the full stop. So we use sentence to declare, or to make statements, or to provide a fact, or to express an opinion. Alright. Now look at this opinion here. Look at these examples we have. The sunset is beautiful tonight. The sunset is beautiful tonight. The home team won the baseball game yesterday. Another example here we have is, I get paid every other Friday. It is too hot out here for a picnic. When it is thundering, my dog hides under the bed. Sandra is reading an interesting book about renewable energy. So if you look at all these sentences that is here, some are declaring, some are just statements, alright, some are facts, and some expresses opinion. So this is declarative sentences. Take notes, they always end with a period and based on what they are used for. Let's move on to the next type of sentence we have right here. We have the interrogative sentence. Now this is a sentence that is used to ask a question, and it always ends with a question mark. And it often starts with who, what, where, when, why, or how. So they end with question mark. Let's look at some examples we have here. Examples are, where are you going? When are you coming back? How did she enter? So these are interrogative sentences used for question. And one way to know it is that they end with question mark and the rest starts with the WH word. Let's look at the next type of sentence based on its uses. We have the imperative sentence. Imperative sentence. And this is a sentence that is used to express a command, an order, or a request. So these sentences are used to command or place a order or a request. Examples: we have, please pick up the notes when you come. Please pick up the notes when you come. This is a request. Close the door. This is a command. Please clean your room. This is also a request. So we use imperative sentences for all this: for command, for order, and for requests. Let's look at the next sentence we have here based on its use. We have the exclamatory sentence. Now this sentence is used to express strong emotions like excitement, anger, or joy. And one key factor about this sentence is that it always ends with an exclamation mark. It always ends with an exclamation mark. For example, we have, we won the championship. Wow, how good this is. That was a great match. Now, if you see the way I'm reading it, there are some emotions attached to the words that I'm reading. So it's used to express strong emotions like excitement, anger, joy, or any of our feelings. And one key factor is that it always ends with the exclamation mark. It always ends with the word exclamation mark. Let's move on to the next part. Now we've talked about type of sentences based on the uses. Now let's look at clauses, because we need the idea of a clause to understand the other parts of the sentences based on the structure. Now we can identify each sentences based on its structure by looking at the clauses. But before then, what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. And most of the time, they are the building blocks of sentences. So a clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. Let's look at types of clauses. Now we have two major types of clauses. Number one, we have the independent clause. An independent clause are clauses that stand alone and they are a complete sentence, and they also express a complete thought. They can stand alone and they can express a complete thought, and they also contain a subject and a verb. For example, the blue whale is the biggest animal in the world. Another example again, I don't like peanut butter. This is a clause and it is expressing an idea or a complete sense. So there is a subject and there is a verb. Let's look at the other type of clause. Now, the second type of clause is called dependent clause, or you can see it as subordinate clause. Dependent clause or subordinate clause. Now, a dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand alone in a sentence. Why? Because it does not express a complete thought. But most often, dependent clause always give us information about the independent clause. And mind you, another name for independent clause can also be called the main clause. So the dependent clause or subordinate clause give us information about the independent clause. And mind you, dependent clause also contain a subject and a verb. But the difference is that it does not express a complete thought. For example, when she arrives. The one in France. Now, these are not complete thoughts, but these are dependent clause because it needs some other part of the sentences to make it a complete thought. That's why we call it dependent clause. Now, let's look at types of sentences based on their structure. Having learned about clauses, we have four major type of sentences based on their structure. First, we have the simple sentences, we have the compound sentences, we have the complex sentences rather, then we have the compound complex sentences. So we just have four of them based on their structure: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. Let's take them one by one. Let's look at the simple sentences. Now, a simple sentence is a sentence that has only one independent clause. It has only one independent clause and does not contain any dependent or subordinate clause in it at all. For example, we have the train arrived on time. The train leaves at 5 a.m. I couldn't find Mary at the park. Josh loves skiing. These are simple sentences with only one independent clause. From all of them, you can see there is no dependent clause in them at all. Let's go to number 2. We have the compound sentence. A compound sentence is made up of two or more independent clauses joined together with a comma or conjunction. It is joined together with a comma or conjunction. And conjunctions are words that join sentences together. Sometimes we can call this conjunction, we can call it coordinating conjunctions. Now, coordinating conjunctions, they are words that are used to join two or more independent clauses together, and they are 7 in number. We have and, but, or, no, yet, so, and, for. So these are the 7 coordinating conjunctions we have. Mind you, coordinating conjunctions are words that are used to join independent clauses together. For example, he ran out of money, so he couldn't buy any lunch. Now, he ran out of money is a clause. He ran out of money is a clause, and it's a independent clause. He couldn't buy any lunch is another independent clause, but they are joined by a coordinating conjunction. So is a coordinating conjunction joining this and these sentences together. Number 2, the garden is huge. It has 2 ponds. Now this is another example of a compound sentence. The garden is huge is a clause. It has 2 ponds is another clause. Now I told you the clause can be joined either by a coordinating conjunction or a comma. So in this case, we just have a comma joining them together. Number 3, I get up early, yet I cannot fall asleep. I need to get up early, yet I cannot fall asleep. I need to get up early is a clause. I cannot fall asleep is another clause joined together by the coordinating word, by the coordinating conjunction, yet. So these are examples of compound sentences. Let's move on to the next slide. We have complex sentences. Now, complex sentences is made up of independent clause and dependent clause joined by subordinating conjunction. Now, subordinating conjunctions are words that join an independent clause to a dependent clause. So they are words that connect independent clause to a dependent clause. So that is what subordinating conjunctions do. And they include although, because, rather than, even though, after, until. These are examples of subordinating clause. But also, complex sentences can also be made up of independent clauses and dependent clauses joined by what we called relative pronoun. Sometimes they are joined by subordinating conjunctions, or they are joined by what? Relative pronoun. And relative pronouns tells us more about the main clause or the independent clause, the noun or the subject in the independent clause. That is what the relative pronoun tells us about. And they are which, that, who, whose, whom, whoever. So those are relative pronoun. And from there you can see that relative pronouns gives us information about the independent clause. All right, they give us information about the independent clause. Take notes. Yes, independent clause. They give us information about the independent, not dependent, independent clause. And most of the time, it's talking about the subject in that independent clause. Example, we have, I heated my food in the microwave because it has gone cold. I heated my food in the microwave because it has gone cold. Now, it has gone cold is the independent clause. I heated my food in the microwave is the main clause, and it is joined with because. Now, it had gone cold. What has gone cold is the food. So this particular part here is telling us about what has gone wrong with the what? With the food. What has gone wrong with the food. So number 2 example we have there is, customers shop here often when prices go down. So if you break this down into a structure, we have the main clause, customers shop here often, while the dependent clause is the prices go down. So customers shop here often is the main clause. The prices goes down is the subordinate clause, and it is joined by whenever, often. So these are examples of complex sentences. Let's look at number 3. Ami sent back her item after she realized it was damaged. Ami sent back her item after she realized it was damaged. So she realized it was damaged is your dependent clause. Ami sent back her item is the main clause, and are joined by the word subordinating conjunction here, which is the after. So this part is telling us more about the main clause. All right. So the dependent clause is talking more about the what? The main clause. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. We have number 4, the compound complex sentences. Now it is made up of 2 or more independent clauses and at least 1 dependent clause. So we can have 2 or more independent clause joined together by at least 1 dependent clause. Now there are some rules that we can use to identify a compound complex sentences. Rule number 1 says, if we join an independent clause to another independent clause, then we can use a comma, or we can use a coordinating conjunction, or we can use a semicolon. So we join it with a comma, with a coordinating conjunction, or a semicolon. That's if you are joining independent clause to another independent clause. Now, if you are joining a dependent clause to an independent clause, we use a subordinating conjunction. Now, take note, subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun are used to connect independent clause to a dependent clause, or the other way around. Let's look at some examples. When I grow up, I want to be a nurse, and I want to help people who are ill. So if you look at when I grow up, when I grow up is just a subordinate clause. I want to be a nurse is a main clause. I want to help people who are ill is a main clause. So if you look at this junction right here, the and is connecting I want to be a nurse and I want to help people who are ill, which are the main clauses. When I grow up is just the subordinate clause. Let's look at number 2. After we went outside, I was feeling cold and it started raining. After I went outside, I was feeling cold and it started what? Raining. The main clause here is I was feeling cold. And the other main clause here is it started raining, and they are joined with what? With and. And after I went outside is just the subordinate clause. Let's look at number 3. I went to the pet shop even though I didn't have any money and I bought a kitten. I went to the pet shop even though I didn't have any money and I bought a kitten. I bought a kitten. A cute kitten is the main clause. I don't have any money, another main clause. I went to the pet shop is just a subordinate clause. And here we have even though, which is the subordinating conjunction. I tell you earlier, if you are joining a dependent clause to independent clause, we use the subordinating conjunction. So right here we have a dependent clause joined with an independent clause using the subordinating conjunction. All right. So we have come to the end of this class. The summary for this class is we talk about types of sentences based on their structure. We have the simple, compound, complex, and compound, complex, compound based on their structure, which is the compound complex sentences based on their structure. And we also said that simple sentences contain one independent clause, and we said compound sentences contain two or more independent clauses joined together by a comma and a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon. We also said that complex sentences contain at least one dependent clause linked to the main clause, or you call it independent clause, with a subordinating conjunction. And we said that compound complex sentences contain at least one dependent clause and at least two independent clauses. And we also look at the various types of sentences. So we say sentences is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb. And we also talk about the types of sentences that we have. We said the sentences that we have here, we have declarative sentences, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. All right, let's go to our assignment for today. The assignment for today, we're going to look at, give 10 examples of simple sentences. Please make sure you are creative about this. Make use of your own words. Don't take any sentences that is given already in this lesson. Make use of your own words. So look at all the questions that are given to you. You can pause and replay to get some of your answers, or you can make research to get your answers. The second exercises we have here is identify the type of sentence, whether they are simple, compound, or complex sentences, and also mention which of the clauses is the main clause and the subordinate clause. Which means number 1 questions, I don't know that this food was meant only for the staff. So the question is asking you, what kind of sentence is this? You give me the type. Then it's also asking you which of the clauses is the main clause and the subordinate clause. So you're going to underline the main clause and the subordinate clause. So each question should be given 2 answers for each questions. And next exercise we have here is punctuate. Now we are going to go through the sentences that we have here. Then you punctuate them properly. If you look at the sentences that we have, there is no punctuation mark here. Some do not have question mark, no full stop, no punctuation mark. So your job is to rewrite these questions and put in the right punctuation at the right place of a sentence. So we've come to the end of this lesson. If you have any question, you can forward your question to me. So we're going to meet on Friday physically in the class. God bless you and stay blessed. Bye bye.